Okay, ma'am.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, it
we
is
should
all.
start the presentation, ma'am. Welcome everyone for today's session. We have Mr. Melvin Marben from Hassan Institute of Medical Science as our presenter for today. And mentors are Dr. Anusha from Shimoga Institute of Medical Sciences, assistant professor from Shimoga Institute of Medical Sciences, Dr. Mangala, she's consultant from Bangalore, Dr.Abhilash Vasant, senior resident from Father Mullis Medical College. Uh, so, Marben, over to you. You can start the presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
All the best. Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am Melvin Mabin in final year from HIMS Hassan. So today I'll be presenting a case of a 29-year-old lady, Mrs. XYZ. She hails from Chikmagalur. She is a housewife by occupation and she has education up to class 7. Her husband, Mr. ABC, is 31 years of age. He's a farmer by occupation and is educated up to 7th standard. She belongs to class 4 of modified BG Prasad classification. Date of admission and examination were on 27th February 2020. Last menstrual period was 20th May 2019 and expected date of delivery is 27th February 2020. Obstetric score, she is gravid of 2, para 1, living 1. Chief complaints are history of amenorrhea since 9 months, and patient has come for safe confinement of pregnancy with no other complaints. History of present pregnancy. First trimester, it was a spontaneous conception. Pregnancy was confirmed after 1.5 months of missed period by UPT, by urine pregnancy test, and she was a booked case at HIMS. 3 antenatal visits were completed. Booster dose of TT vaccine was taken. Folic acid tablets were taken. First trimester dating scan was done and was found normal and corresponding to the gestational age. No history of burning micturition. No history of fever with rashes, excessive vomiting. No history of spotting or bleeding per vaginum. No history of pain abdomen. No history of exposure to radiation and drug intake. Second trimester, quickening was felt at 5 months of gestation. Second trimester anomaly scan was done and no anomalies were found. Iron and calcium tablets were taken. No history of fever with rashes. No history of drug intake or radiation exposure. No history of pervaginal bleed. No history of pedal edema or headache. Third trimester, fetal movements are well perceived. Iron and calcium tablets are taken. No history of pervaginal bleed or leak per vagina. Growth scan was done at 32 weeks and it showed breech presentation. Weight gain, total weight gain in pregnancy is 12 kg. Menstrual history, menarche at 14 years. Past cycles were 28-day cycles with 3 to 4 days of flow. Usage of 2 to 3 pads per day. No history of dysmenorrhea or passage of clots. Last menstrual period was on 20th May 2019. Expected date of delivery 27th February 2020. Obstetric history, married life of 3 years. It was a non-consanguineous marriage. Obstetric score, gravid 2, para 1, living 1. The first child was a full-term vaginal delivery at HIMS on 4th January 2018. It was a female child. Birth weight was 2.6 kgs. She is alive and healthy. Contraceptive history, barrier method was used as contraception. Past history, not a known case. Yes, ma'am.
Melvin, go
Yes,
back
ma'am.
to chief complaints. Okay, chief complaints. Next slide. Yeah. So this case, it is just 9 months of amenorrhea has come for safe confinement, right? Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
So
ma'am.
the next thing, next slide. Okay. Now history of present pregnancy. Yeah, this here starts the obstetric history, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
before this, currently she has come to us at 9 months. I need to know so many things about her, not directly about her pregnancy from the beginning. Correct? Right now, even though her complaints are not there, I want to know few things. Say the same case comes to us in the OPD,
Yes.
I'll ask certain things, right? Correct?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
what are the things you'll ask for?
If she has any bleeding or leak per vagina,
Okay.
and if there is any pain abdomen, and whether the fetal movements are well perceived.
Yeah. So here I want to know, as an obstetrician, I want to know whether the baby is fine or not, and whether she is in labor or not. Right? These two things are needed
Yes.
anytime she comes to us. Okay. Even if it is a normal ANC case, you're seeing her at 8 months, you will ask these two things. In your case presentation, when you're writing up a case which is a normal ANC case, see, now it is going almost like a normal ANC case, right? Your
Yes,
case,
ma'am.
other than scan be detecting breach at 32 weeks, other than that everything is almost normal, correct?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
one thing we need to write is, after chief complaints, you will have to explain about the present condition. That is, the uh, we want to know about the fetal condition. We want to know her, whether she is labor status, right? So
Yes.
one thing about the fetal condition, you will ask one sentence, that is whether she is perceiving fetal movements or not. Correct? Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
history of 9 months of amenorrhea, perceiving fetal movements well, with no history of. I want to rule out whether she is in labor or not. So
Yes.
how will I rule out whether she is in labor or not? By what questions?
Like you should ask her whether she has any pain abdomen which is continuous and increasing in frequency and duration, and whether she has any cervical show associated with it, and whether the pain is spreading to the lower thighs and lower back, to confirm that it is true labor pain.
So here we need to differentiate true and false labor pain, and accordingly those questions you need to ask. As you mentioned, the pain abdomen, where is it, the frequency, the regularity, all this, and also associated leak or bleeding per vaginum. Yeah. So we
Yes, ma'am.
have to, after this chief complaints, you will have to make you will have to make a slide, or you will have to write about the present status of hers. Okay. History of 9 months of amenorrhea, with good perception of fetal movements, with no history of bleeding per vaginum, leak per vaginum. Okay. The
Yes, ma'am.
same case, if she is a case of high blood sugars. Imagine, okay, in this chief complaints, if there is anything like detected with high blood sugars, okay,
Yes, ma'am.
now all the time she was normal, and now only complaint of hers, along with this 9 months of amenorrhea and all this, only complaint is she is somewhere she's been referred from saying she has high blood sugars. So you'll just write, with history of high blood sugar since the past 2 weeks, has come for further management or further treatment. This will be the thing. If it is same thing with PIH or anything, okay, then you'll
Okay.
elaborate. And
Okay.
in the history of, yeah, you may be wondering, there is no complaint at all, then how do we write the present complaint, how do we write? Correct?
Yes.
That question come up in
How
the
do we
mind?
write it? Like, do we write it
Yeah.
as history of presenting illness, or?
History of presenting illness you can write. Okay. And you can write it as history of 9 months of amenorrhea. And basically in the beginning itself, we get to know whether she's in labor or not by all those questions. Okay. Along with that, we can also rule out PIH, because once she is second trimester onwards, anytime after 20 weeks, she can have PIH and all that. So definitely we rule out that part by asking whether there is any what do you say, the swelling of the lower limbs or urinary disturbances or the impending signs. Mandatorily we do mention these things, even if it is a case of normal ANC. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Then you will start with history of, see, before this history of present pregnancy, you you need to mention first as obstetric history. Okay. Under obstetric history, you will write the obstetric score or the obstetric index. So then you will tell about what is it, say in this case it is gravida 2 para 1 living 1, and then you will also mention married since so many years. It's almost like a story. First she got married at so many years back, and this is primi gravida, or she's third gravida with previous to whatever. Okay. So you next slide will be obstetric history. In that we will start with married since so many years, then obstetric score. Okay. After that you will elaborate what you have written here, no, history of present pregnancy. Okay.
Okay.
So I totally agree with whatever you have written in the first. So yeah. Okay. So is this dating scan mandatory?
Not mandatory.
Sorry.
It is not mandatory, but it is recommended.
Ah, see, you need to know that it is not mandatory. Only if in what cases you have to get a dating scan.
Uh, in case she comes with bleeding, like abortion.
Yeah. If in case she has bleeding, then I want to know if yeah, whether it is a case of abortion or anything, then definitely I'll send for a scan. Then what else?
In case she doesn't know her last menstrual period for
Exactly.
dating.
She doesn't know her LMP. She doesn't know her cycles have been very irregular. In such cases, yes. Or previous history of ectopic, previous history of abortions, previous history of what is that, molar pregnancy. Definitely, this early trimester scan is mandatory. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Next slide. Then rest of the things okay. Next slide. Second trimester. Okay. When is this anomaly scan done? Ideally.
After 14 weeks, it is done.
So you should be specific, right? When will you send for an anomaly scan? 13 to 22 weeks is a wide range, Anaga. Exactly 20 weeks if you send, then if there is anything anomaly detected at that period, can you abort such a case? No, right? So
Before 20
the
weeks.
range is from, the range is from 16 to 20 weeks. Many books even say 18 to 20. Many people say even 18 to 20 weeks. So 16 to 20 weeks, you will send for an anomaly scan. And why is it sent
To know
at
whether,
this period itself? Yeah.
because the organogenesis would be completed,
Okay.
the major organogenesis, so we can detect any anomalies which are there, and it is before the period at which MTP is allowed. So if there are any major anomalies, we can abort the fetus.
Yes. So according to MTP Act, in abortion, MTP for fetal anomaly can be done well within 20 weeks. That's why we have to get the anomaly scan well within 20 weeks. Okay. Next thing, next slide. Yeah, now it is changed. It is pushed on till 24 weeks. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Next is fetal movements are well perceived. Okay. Okay. Again, coming to this growth scan, is it mandatory?
Not mandatory.
So when will you send? It is not mandatory. I agree. So when will you send for, when you'll opt for a scan, growth scan?
In case there are any complications like malpresentations or.
Okay, good. Okay.
And if she can't perceive can't perceive the fetal movements.
Okay, you'll check her clinically, FHS. Then you have all other modalities. No, you will check it with your STED. We have Doppler. We have bedside. Yeah, agree. Okay, then where else? Where else?
Then to check the liker.
Yeah. So clinically, when I detect any abnormality, like liker is very high, liker is very less on clinical examination. or the baby, the gestational age is not according to our LMP is not corresponding to to the examination gestational age, whatever I'm finding. So there is a discrepancy. It could be IUGR, or it could be a very like, you know, more than the gestational age the growth is. Or as you said, abnormal presentations, abnormal light. In such conditions, yes, I do ask for a scan. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Next.
One point, this second trimester history, just come to second trimester history.
Yes, sir.
Think what are the minimum number of visits required in antenatal period?
4 visits.
4 visits. So you can mention no history of elevated BP recordings, because usually every visit will be checking BP, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's important finding. So you can mention the no history of elevated BP recordings, and usually we do blood investigations also. You can write no history of elevated sugar levels, and other investigations were told to be normal. Okay. You can make a pointer.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Oh, okay. And for the question asked, minimum number of visits, you said 4. Does it mean today? Does it mean today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, and whatever?
No, ma'am. One first visit should be between before 14 weeks, then between 14 to 28 weeks, then 28 to 32, and one is after 32 weeks.
Okay. So minimal criteria is 4 visits. Okay. In the first 2 trimester, each 1 visit, and in the last trimester, yes, 2 visits. Okay. But ideally, how often should the patient come to us? Ideally.
First, before 28 weeks, she should come once every month. Then from 28 to 28 to 36 weeks, she should come twice every month, and after that, once every week. So it comes up to 12 to 15 visits.
Okay. How are pregnant women categorized based on the risk?
High risk pregnancies and normal.
Is there any woman who is not under any risk? Pregnant woman who is not under risk? No. Okay. So pregnancy is either classified into low risk or high risk. Okay. So there is nothing like no risk. So so can you just list out few of the low risk pregnancies?
Within the normal age of the pregnancy, that is, she is not either elderly or not teenage pregnancy, then she has no other comorbid conditions. Then
like what?
Like blood hypertension, diabetes. Then it is a single pregnancy. Cephalic presentation.
Okay. Yeah. So based on the height, based on the number of fetuses inside, yeah, whether she is induced into labor or it's a spontaneous labor. So if it is spontaneous labor, it is low risk. If it is induced labor, it is high risk. Yes, Rh negative pregnancy, high risk. Anything, any medical disorder in the mother, it is high risk. Yeah, breech, what is it? Low risk or high risk?
High risk.
High risk. Yeah. So, so you need to know this, because tomorrow somebody may come when you are, say, you are an intern or you are some consultant. They'll ask you. Some patient attender will ask you, what will happen? Will everything be fine? So what will you tell her? So this speaks a lot. So every pregnant woman falls under risk. Anything, see, everything may be fine. She may land up with PPA, right? For no reason.
Yes.
Correct. So this is how it is categorized. Okay. Next. What else? Next slide.
In growth scan, you mentioned breech, right? Is it common to find breech presentation in growth scan?
No, sir, not common.
Is it at 32 weeks? Is breech more common than cephalic?
No, sir. Breech.
You know the percentage?
At 28 weeks, it is about 20%. At
Yes.
32 weeks, it becomes about 7%, and at 36 weeks, 3 to 4%.
A term around 3 to 4%, 34 weeks around 5%, and 20% around 28 weeks. Still, baby may turn, okay,
Yes.
after growth scan.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
So
Continue,
what's
continue.
the most common cause for breech?
Prematurity.
Yeah, so it is prematurity. Anything remote from term, the breech can be commonly seen. Okay, yeah. Melvin, can you repeat the percentages? Somebody's asking.
At 28 weeks, it is about 20%. At 34 weeks, about 5%, and 36 weeks, 3 to 4%.
Continue. Continue, Melvin.
Yes. Obstetric history. Married life of 3 years. It was a non-consanguineous marriage. Obstetric score of gravid 2, para 1, and living 1. The first child was a full-term vaginal delivery at HIMS on 4th January 2018. Was a female child who weighed 2.6 kg. She is alive and healthy.
A full-term vaginal delivery. So can you call this, whatever explanation you have given, by this can you say it is a normal delivery?
Yes.
What are the criteria to say it is a normal delivery?
It should be a single live fetus with cephalic presentation, and the delivery should be at term, and it should be spontaneous delivery.
Sorry?
Spontaneous delivery.
Okay. Then baby weight?
Baby weight should be more than 2.5 kgs.
Okay. So can
delivery with minimal age.
Yeah. So minimal age means episiotomy. If you use forceps or vacuum, can you call it normal delivery?
Forceps not good.
Okay. Fine. Yeah. Continue.
Contraceptive history. Barrier methods. Condoms were used as contraception.
Just a second, Melvin, just for the sake of everybody. See, there needs to be rearrangement of whatever he has made the slides. So as mentioned before, after you explain the chief complaints or the present illness, you will go for obstetric history. In that, under that, you will be writing married since so many years, and then obstetric score. After that, you will be explaining the present pregnancy in terms of each trimester. Okay, whatever Melvin just mentioned. After this, if she has had any, say she was in this case she was second gravida, so the previous pregnancy you will elaborate. See, usually what we see is many students write up like just like the present pregnancy, first trimester, she got TT done at this month, that, this, everything, even for the previous pregnancies. Okay, which need not be done. One thing is, it really shows that you have cooked up the case, because many a times women won't remember that, okay, at this second month I got TT done for the previous pregnancy. Yes, present pregnancy they'll remember. Okay, so that's why make sure that you don't elaborate too much over the previous pregnancy. Okay, one thing very much needed is whether it was an institutional delivery or not, whether it was at term or not, and how is the baby now, how old is the baby, what is the gender of the baby, and what was the mode of the delivery, whether it was cesarean or instrumental delivery or vaginal delivery. If it was any other like instrumental or cesarean, you need to give the indication. Okay, then after this, say contraceptive history, you can write it in between the two pregnancies. Say you have elaborated the first pregnancy, And then you can write for 2 years they were using whatever barrier method or anything, and then go for the second pregnancy, or like Melvin has written separately under a heading, you can write the contraceptive history. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Past history. Not a known case of diabetes mellitus, hypertension, epilepsy, asthma, TB, or thyroid disorders. There is no history of any surgeries in the past, and no history of previous blood transfusions. Family history. No history of bleeding disorders in the family. No history of any children with chromosomal abnormality or birth defects in the family, and no history of twinning in the family. Personal history. Her diet is mixed, appetite is normal, sleep undisturbed, bowel and bladder habits are normal and regular. There is no history of addictions, any addictions.
Okay, just go to the previous slide. This history of twinning in the family. Okay.
Yes.
When is it very important to take this history?
When there are twins in the present pregnancy. Okay.
Yeah, you already know this is twins, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct. So at what gestational age is it important to know about the twinning in the family?
Initial part, first trimester.
Exactly. So if she says, yes, I have a family history, something like this, yes, definitely you will send for a early trimester scan in such a case. Okay. We just spoke about dating scan, whether it is mandatory or not, right?
Yes,
so
ma'am.
in that case, if she has history of twinning in the family, it becomes important to get a scan done in the first trimester itself. Okay. Yeah. Go next.
Summary. A 29-year-old lady with an obstetric score of gravid 2, para 1, living 1, with 9 months of amenorrhea, comes for safe confinements of pregnancy. She has no other complaints such as pain abdomen and bleeding or leak per vagina, and the fetal movements are well perceived.
Okay. Fine.
General physical examination. Here is a young lady who is moderately built and nourished. She is conscious, cooperative, well oriented to time, place, and person. Weight is 55 kgs, height 158 centimeters. BMI is 22.09 kg per meter square. Pallor, there is no pallor, icterus, clubbing, cyanosis, lymphadenopathy, or edema. Breast, spine, and thyroid are normal. Vitals. Her pulse rate is 76 beats per minute. It is of regular rhythm, normal volume, and normal character. Blood pressure of 120 by 80 mm of Hg taken from the left hand in sitting position. Respiratory rate is 16 cycles per minute of thoraco-abdominal type. Temperature is 98.6 degree Fahrenheit. I'll continue, ma'am.
Yeah.
Per abdomen examination, inspection. Shape of the abdomen, distended and appears longitudinally oval. Flanks are full. Umbilicus is central and everted. Linea nigra and stria gravidarum are present. There are no scars, sinuses, or dilated veins that are seen. Hernial orifices are intact. Palpation, no local rise of temperature. Abdominal girth is 99 centimeters at the level of abdomen. Fundal height 36 weeks corresponds to the gestational age. Symphysiofundal height is 36 centimeters, which corresponds to the gestational age. Obstetric grips, fundal grip, a hard, non-ballotable mass is palpated, which is suggestive of the fetal head. Right lateral grip, uniform, continuous curved resistance, which is suggestive of the spine. Left lateral grip, multiple knob-like structures are palpated, which are suggestive of limbs. First pelvic grip, broad, soft, irregular mass is palpated, suggestive of breech. And second pelvic grip, fingers are converging, which suggests that it is not engaged.
What is bellotment?
You can move it in your hand when you feel it.
Okay. And usually, how is it at the head end? Is it bellotable or not? If you feel head,
Usually, it should be bellotable.
huh? Where? See, usual. What is a usual presentation of the fetus?
Cephalic presentation.
Cephalic presentation. In cephalic presentation, in the first pelvic grip, what do you find? You'll find the head, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So when you move it, when you are doing the
It
first
means it is
pelvic grip,
not engaged.
huh?
Yeah, it means that the head is not engaged in case it is bellotable.
So it is. Yes, it is. It is easily moved. Basically, it is because of the joint, right, at
Yeah.
the neck, in the neck region, atlanto-occipital joint, which results in the bellotability or the movement of the head, which is not traversed through the whole body. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that is, yeah, somebody has written independently bellotable for head and that. So head is independently bellotable. Okay. Now, even in case of breech, if you find the head in the fundal grip, you can move it. You can move the head. It is bellotable mass.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. No, internal bellotment is different. It is done based on the per vaginal examination. Okay. Yeah. So next.
Auscultation. Fetal heart sounds are heard along the right spino-umbilical line. The rate is of 140 beats per minute.
Okay. Normally
System.
in cephalic presentation, where is the FH is heard?
Uh, Depending on the position, ma'am, it can be heard on the left lateral or right lateral positions.
Basically in the back of the fetus, right? The
Yeah.
scapula region, you will auscultate the FHS better, correct? So it is either on the right or the left side in the spino-umbilical line. Now in breech, where is it heard? In breech presentation, where will the FHS be heard?
Spino-umbilical line.
Okay, it
But
is almost, yeah, it is below the umbilicus in cephalic presentation, whereas in breech you can hear it just around or usually above the umbilicus.
okay.
Yeah, and it is
Yeah.
not in the spino-umbilic. Spine is what? Anterior superior iliac spine and the umbilicus. So in that plane is where you will find FHS usually in cephalic presentation. Okay, if you
Okay.
see the breech, you can hear it usually above the umbilicus or on the lateral sides of the umbilicus. So it won't be in the spino-umbilical line.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Systemic examination, cardiovascular system, S1 and S2 sounds are heard, no murmurs are heard. Respiratory system, normal vesicular breath sounds are heard, no added sounds. Central nervous system, no focal neurological deficit. Summary, a 29-year-old lady with an obstetric score of Gravid 2, Para 1, Living 1, with 9 months of amenorrhea comes for safe confinement of pregnancy. She has no other complaints and is not in labor. Her vitals are normal, and on per abdominal examination, the symphysia fundal height corresponds to the period of gestation. A single live fetus is palpated with soft continuous mass palpated on the first pelvic grip, suggestive of breech presentation. The fetal heart sounds are normal.
Okay. Okay. her EDD, what did you say?
27th February.
She presented on the day of EDD, no? The
Yes, yes,
hospital.
yes, sir. Provisional diagnosis: 29-year-old lady with obstetric score of gravid 2 para 1 living 1, 38 weeks of gestation with live single intrauterine pregnancy, longitudinal lie, and breech presentation with no other complaints and not in labor.
I think she's 40 weeks.
Yes.
You told date of examination and EDD same day, no?
Yes, sir. 40 weeks.
So 40 weeks. That is.
Okay, sir.
If you calculate the in weeks, okay, if we just see the day of EDD, she'll be 40 weeks, as sir mentioned now. Okay.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So it is gravida 2 para 1 living 1 with 40 weeks of gestation with breech, not in labor.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, fine. So she had got a scan done at 32 weeks, right?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So it's almost
8.
how many months back? Yeah, 2 months back, right? Her
Yes, yes,
scan
ma'am.
which she has is 2 months old scan.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And you have examined and you have found it as breech. Okay.
Yes,
What is
ma'am.
your management, further management?
First, we will try to go for USG
Okay.
to confirm the breech presentation, then to see the position of the head, and to see the type of breech, and to see the Liker volume, and to see the position of the placenta, and to find out the expected fetal weight, and to see whether there are any anomalies in this pregnancy currently. And then we can either go, we'll try to go for vaginal delivery.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Vaginal delivery
Okay.
with assistance if required.
See, when we ask management, always start from routine investigation. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
See, tomorrow the same case comes to you in the labor room. What you'll do, you'll directly just give her a prescription of scan and send her, or you'll also write blood investigation.
Blood investigations.
If you post this case, say it comes out to be as breech, just based on the scan and your examination. If you post this case for section, you think the anesthetist will give the case? He will ask for all the blood investigations, right? So laterally, you need to prepare. I mean, you need to get all the things done. So anytime, any case it is, think of the basic investigation. Start from the basic investigation. Okay. Don't skip that part. So what you will do? What investigations you will send?
Routine blood investigations like hemoglobin, blood grouping, RS typing, complete blood count. Then we'll see the urine routine.
Okay, urine routine, fine.
Then
yeah, I want to know her urine proteins as well, so I'll send. Okay, if she has urinary symptoms, definitely yes. Then what else?
Then
serology.
Serology, HBsAg, HIV 1 and 2, VDRL.
Yeah, she may be in the window period. She has got a HIV done long back. So you need to repeat after 6 months of her previous HIV report, definitely. Okay.
Yes.
Serology, yes. So these basic investigations you will get it done and also send for scan. Okay. In scan, what all you look for? Once again, can you repeat?
Yes, ma'am. We'll confirm the breech presentation. We'll see for the type of breech, then position of the head. We'll see for the Liker volume and the position of the placenta and expected fetal weight and whether there are any anomalies present.
So the scan has come. as you suspected it to be breech and it has come out as breech. Okay.
Yeah.
So baby's weight is around 3 kg. 3 kgs breech, not in labor, and 40 weeks. What you'll do? All reports are normal. HB, RBS, serology, everything normal. What you'll do?
Uh, we can uh, we can wait until she has spontaneous labor, ma'am.
Okay, you'll wait till when? So she, okay, you'll wait
42
till
weeks.
42 weeks. Okay.
And then if not, we'll have to take her up for cesarean section.
Okay. So you'll send her home saying, okay, you're 40 weeks, not in labor. You come back at 42 weeks. That's what you'll send, tell her and send her.
No, ma'am. We'll keep her in the institution. We can try for external cephalic version.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. So we can go in for ECV. Okay. Now coming to ECV. What is it?
Ma'am, you try to externally change the position of the fetus to make it a cephalic presentation.
Okay. Okay. What is IPV? Heard of this IPV?
IPV is internal podalic version, ma'am. It is done in case of twin delivery when the first twin is delivered, but the second twin is in transverse lie. Then we'll do this internal podalic version and then make it breech.
Yeah. So now ECV, as he said, it is a maneuver done externally on the abdomen of the patient or the lady. Okay, with an intention to convert either a transverse lie or a breech into cephalic presentation. Yeah. So it
Yes.
is not just done, ECV is not just done for breech, more chances or more successful rates are higher when done for transverse lie as well. Okay, this is one thing about ECV. Okay, now how do we choose or what are the contraindications for ECV?
Contraindications are the woman should not have any uh, antenatal hemorrhage. Then the
Antepartum.
antepartum hemorrhage, the fetus should be uh, in the normal weight range, that is between 1.5 and 3.5 kgs. There should be no congenital abnormalities. It should be a live fetus, and there should be no IUGR. And in case of hyperextension of the head, we cannot do ECV, and it should be a single fetus. Then there should be no rupture of the membranes. The pelvis should be normal. There should be no contracted pelvis, and the uterus also should be normal without any congenital malformations. And in case of previous C-sections, we cannot do because it can lead to scar rupture. And the woman should not have any other obstetric complications like preeclampsia or any oligohydramnios.
Mm.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you tell about placenta position?
It should be normal placentation. It should not be placenta previa.
Yes. Oh, very good. So now to carry out ECV successfully, we need to choose the case, as he said. Okay. If a case with multiple gestation, can you do ECV? No, it should be a singleton fetus inside. Okay, and it should not have an hyperextended head or what is called a stargazing fetus. Okay, on scan, if they find that its head is hyperextended, such a case is not. Yeah. Then what else? If it is very short cord, or then the ECV it's difficult. Then the Liker quantity. If it is oligohydramnios, again it is difficult to do ECV. Polyhydramnios, if you do it, it can revert back very easily. Okay, And placenta, if it is placenta previa, you can't, because our purpose is to leave her for vaginal delivery after ECV. So if it is placenta previa, then we can't leave her for vaginal delivery. So we will not. And even anteriorly lying placenta, okay, the anterior wall of the uterus, if there is placenta, then again it is again relative indication, where it can, because we are maneuvering on her abdomen, which is very closely where we manipulate the anterior wall of the uterus, so there could be very easily abruption and all this. Okay.
Yes.
Then it is better done with a scan next to us, so that we can keep checking the FHS very well. Okay. And also he mentioned that we have to rule out the uterine anomalies, the fetal anomalies, all this. So Leica quantity, the fetal condition, fetal anomaly, uterine anomaly, then the placentation, and definitely if there is any scar on the uterus, you can't do this. And uh, when will you opt to do ECV? From what gestation?
From 36 weeks of gestation.
Okay, from 36 weeks till when can you do ECV?
Till 40 weeks before the labor, I don't.
Before the onset of labor, sometimes even if she has contractions, then we can even give her uterine relaxant and do it. Okay. Best would be that the membranes are intact. That is what is said.
Yes.
Okay. So you can give a uterine relaxant like all this beta mimetics, the terbutaline drug, and then you can go for ECV. Okay. And very important thing is the pelvis should be adequate. You should have ruled out contracted pelvis, or you should have ruled out contracted pelvis before we do ECV. Okay.
Yes.
So now you did ECV. How many trials can you go for?
2 trials.
2 trials. Okay. So if it is failed, and if she has any FHS abnormality or anything, like she starts bleeding profusely, then you have to immediately take her up for section. So ECV is done in a tertiary center where there is facility for C-section.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Then what is your take on C-section for this patient?
Since we can, if in case we'll do an ECV, ma'am. We'll do a trial of ECV. In case it is cephalic, then we'll go with that. But if it fails, then we'll first try and go for vaginal delivery, ma'am, because she doesn't have any other complications as such for C-section, to do C-section.
So what you will do? You'll induce labor, or what you will do for her? She's not in labor, right?
No, ma'am. We'll wait for her to go into spontaneous labor.
So
okay, usually uncomplicated normal pregnancy, what period of gestation usually we induce the labor, or till when we wait? She has no complications, cephalic presentation, singleton pregnancy. Usually when we induce the patient, if she won't go into labor.
For 40.
At what gestational age? Yeah.
41 weeks is what all the recommendations say. Consider induction of labor. But in India, they say Indian babies mature early, so chances of meconium is more in Indian babies. So usually 40 weeks, many of the consultants, they induce at 40 weeks. So definitely after 40 weeks, not before. What standard guidelines says, not before 39 weeks for any elective induction. For other complications, like when there is hypertension, definitely you have to induce early. Otherwise, uncomplicated pregnancy, after 39 weeks only. India, commonly we go at 40 weeks, and other guidelines say around 41 weeks. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
with this,
you each, sorry. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Continue.
Each institution, say your Hassan Institute of Medical Sciences. So what is the protocol they are following? When are they inducing? So you need to know about such things. Okay. Say in our hospital here, we induce at 40 weeks. So accordingly, your answer should be, so that your internal examiner will support you. If you say 40 weeks, yes, we all induce in our hospital at 40 weeks. That's what they'll tell. Okay. So in your hospital, what is used? Say for example, PIH case. What is a drug which your hospital people are using? Though the drug of choice is labetalol, many of the places nifedipine is used, nicardia is used, depending on the availability or hospital supply, all these things. So so each case, you need to know your hospital protocol or what is done in your hospital. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
You are telling something, Abhilash. Yes.
That's it, ma'am. So usually here also, ma'am, 40 weeks we induce the patient. Indian babies mature fast, they say. That's why I think most of the places they induce at 40 weeks. Otherwise, at 41 weeks, definitely, as per the guidelines. Okay. So with that knowledge, when you want to induce this patient, whether you want to induce this patient and when you want to induce.
Sir, in brief delivery, we usually don't prefer induction of labor. We allow her to go for spontaneous labor.
She didn't go into spontaneous labor, no. So
C-section.
do you want to induce or take per section?
C-section.
Why? What are the advantages of section over vaginal delivery? Or what complications you can avoid by doing section and not allowing her for?
Sir, in vaginal delivery, both the mother and the fetus have various complications, like there can be genital tract injuries and increased risk of postpartum hemorrhage in case of the mother. And in case of the fetus, there can be various injuries to the fetus, like injury to the skull, and there can also be birth asphyxia due to cord compression, or there can be cord prolapse, prolonged labor, and there can be various injuries to various other organs in vaginal delivery. So we prefer C-section.
Okay. So which patients you choose for vaginal delivery? Which patients will choose for the section?
Sir, the indications for C-sections are when the baby is less than 1.5 kg or more than 3.5 kg, then we go for C-section. In case it is hyperextended head, stargazing fetus, we'll have to go for C-section. Then in case of footling or knee presentation, then if the baby has IUGR or there are other complications like PIH or PIH, etc., then we'll go for C-section.
Okay. Normal delivery, what are the criteria favorable?
The fetal weight should be between 1.5 and 3.5 kgs. The
fetal weight.
Fetal head should be in a flexed position. The pelvis should be adequate. Then there should be available facilities in the hospital. Yeah, that's all.
Facility for completed. Facility for
taking her up for C-section in the hospital.
Previous vaginal delivery.
Sorry, sir.
Contribute. Previous vaginal delivery. Will you take a primary gravida with breech presentation for? Will you allow her for normal?
No, primary gravida will prefer a C-section, sir. But if she has a previous delivery, we'll try to go for vaginal delivery.
That is favorable for. It's a favorable factor. Okay, decision we will discuss still. Okay, then Any other complications you have to take for cesarean section, any previous LSAs, IUG or oligohydramnios. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So you want to, so you are planning to induce this patient, right?
No, sir, no induction.
No induction. You're waiting her to go into labor till 41 weeks. If you won't go into labor, then
we go for C-section.
okay. So you mean induction has a risk for the, it should not be tried in breech presentation.
Yes.
Okay, that is also a point. Spontaneous onset of labor may be favorable for breech vaginal delivery.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
So that's why we don't induce breech cases because spontaneous onset of labor is much favorable for the delivery. If not, they end up in C-section. The progression or anything usually doesn't happen well with respect to, and also the complications of the induction, and also complications of induction will also add on to the complications of access the breech. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So we usually don't induce breech cases. Huh? If they have gone into spontaneous labor, yes. Okay. For this case, say she has come in labor. She is 4 centimeter dilated. When you saw, it is 4 centimeter dilated, breech presentation, 3 kg baby, FH is good. What you will do? You send for scan, it has come as breech only. She has a recent scan, and also her reports, everything is normal. HB, everything is normal.
We can try to. No, we'll wait for the baby her to deliver spontaneously.
Okay, fine.
Then yeah, spontaneous delivery is preferred.
How will you monitor the labor?
Sir, cardiotocogram we should do regular cardiotocography.
Okay. A normal labor is monitored with what?
Partograph.
Yes, partograph. It contains fetal heart rate, also maternal parameters, what drugs you are giving, everything is covered in it. No? So partograph will give usually a overall and cover all answers. Okay.
Yes.
So you're going ahead with the vaginal delivery, right? Waiting
Yes,
for her to dilate fully.
Yes, sir.
So once she's fully dilated, how will you proceed?
So once she's fully dilated, we'll wait for the breech to be delivered. We use the no hands technique. We should not do anything until the.
So, you know, crowning, right? Crowning of the head. Have you heard?
Yes, sir.
What will you call for breech?
Climbing of the perineum.
Yes. When breech starts climbing the perineum, what will you do?
We'll wait for her. We'll wait for the breech to be delivered, sir.
Okay. Then
once the breech is delivered, we'll see what kind of presentation is. I mean, what type of breech it is.
okay. Then what are the types of breech?
So you have complete breech and incomplete breech. Complete breech means the baby is in a attitude of universal flexion, and in incomplete breech you have 3 types. Frank presentation, in which the hips are in flexion but the knees are extended. Then you have knee presentation, where the hips are extended and the knees are flexed, and then you have footling presentation, where one or two of the feet are the presenting part.
Okay, your footling presentation and knee presentation, risk of cord prolapse is very high. So leaving for vaginal delivery may be risky. You may not leave her for vaginal delivery. The rest you may leave for vaginal delivery, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now go ahead.
How do you differentiate between footling and complete breech?
On the legs, the legs will be flexed in case of complete breech. But in footling, one of the foot is the presenting part. So when we do the per vaginal examination, so in that you'll feel the buttocks and the external genitalia in case of, and the feet in complete breech. But in footling breech, you'll only feel the feet of the baby.
Yes, correct. So the buttocks, the feet won't be in the same plane with respect to footling. The foot would have popped out. Okay. Many a times they get confused between these two things. Okay. Yeah.
Any other presentation which we confuse for the frank breech?
Somebody answered.
Face presentation.
Yeah.
Yes, face presentation. But your mouth and two malleum, they will come in?
Like the anus and the trochanter.
And yeah, they form a triangle, whereas these three come in the same line, called Beck's triad.
Yes.
Okay, you go ahead with the delivery.
Sir, in case of complete breech, both the legs and the buttocks will get delivered. So in that case, after it is delivered, then we'll have to wait for the shoulders to be.
Before delivery, what and all you want to keep ready for the delivery?
Sir, we need an assistant, an anesthetist, neonatologist. Then we need the instruments required for episiotomy. Then we need forceps in case we have to do a forceps delivery.
Very good. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So in case of complete breech, one of the first the buttocks will get delivered and then the feet will get delivered. In case it is frank breech, we have to do the Pinard's maneuver for delivering the feet of the baby. We have to take the fingers up to the popliteal fossa and then deliver the feet of the baby. Then
the popliteal fossa, then there will be flexion of the leg.
Flexion of the knee joint.
Then you catch hold of the leg. Flexion at knee joint. Then you catch hold of the foot and deliver it. Okay.
Yes.
Then
you go
so at this point, you should know the three principles which you should follow during the delivery. What are the three principles?
Sir, you should not.
You mentioned earlier. Yeah.
No touch policy should be used.
Yeah, never rush. Don't pull the baby. You're seeing the leg. Don't hold it and pull it out.
Yes, sir. And you should not
always keep the back.
Pull, you should push from above, sir.
And one more.
So why should you not pull?
I mean, if you pull the baby, there can be injury to the part where you pull, and there can be arrest of labor.
Why?
Okay. What can happen to
at the neck joint?
The baby can it can get hyperextended.
Our aim is to keep the head flexed, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And one more, keep the back anterior. These three things you should remember. Okay. So deliver the buttocks. Go ahead.
So once the buttocks are delivered and the feet are delivered, then next will be to deliver the shoulders. So in case of delivery of shoulders, if it occurs spontaneously, then we'll allow it to occur spontaneously. In case it does not occur spontaneously, we'll have to go for the Lovset's maneuver.
That is extended head, right? Extended your hand.
Yeah.
How will you know?
Sir, for the scapula, if the scapula is in line with the vertebral column, then we note that the elbow, the shoulder is in flexion, and in case there is winging of scapula, then we know that there is extension. So in that case, we'll have to go for the Lovset's maneuver. For Lovset's maneuver, we'll take the baby and move it posteriorly with the back facing anterior. And because of this, the posterior part of the pelvis has less space, whereas the anterior has more space. So the posterior shoulder will get delivered. And then once the posterior shoulder gets delivered, then we again repeat this with the back anterior. We rotate the baby, and then the anterior shoulder will get delivered.
Okay. Posteriorly, the space is lesser. I didn't understand.
Ma'am, the
Come again,
sacrum.
the principle of lesser.
The sacrum is there in the posterior.
Okay.
So the space in the posterior part is lesser, which because of which it can't be delivered, ma'am. So we rotate the baby and make the posterior part anterior. Posterior shoulder anterior.
It's not about the space, it's about the length. Posteriorly, it's longer. Anteriorly, it's little shorter. So when you rotate, the posterior shoulder would have already come below the symphysis pubis.
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's about the length. It's not about the space.
Okay.
Okay, that's about the Losset's maneuver. You have delivered the hands. After that,
once the shoulders are delivered, then we allow the head to be delivered as well, and we should cover the baby with a towel, and we should allow for it.
Why should you cover the baby towel?
To no idea.
Definitely to prevent hypothermia, right? And also,
I need to get a better grip while doing the manual.
Yeah. So for these two reasons, we cover the baby. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah. So once the shoulders will be delivered, we'll cover the baby with the towel, and we'll allow for the head to deliver on its own. In case that does not happen, then we'll have to use the maneuvers. So one of them is the Burns-Marshall technique, in which once the nape of the neck will be visible, we'll allow the baby to hang by its own weight, and then you take the legs, you give suprapubic pressure, and you take the legs of the baby and make an arc towards the mother's abdomen, by which the head will be delivered.
other maneuvers.
The other maneuver is the smiley wheat Marisol smiley wheat maneuver, in which you place two fingers on the baby's malar prominences, that is the index and the ring finger, and you place three fingers on the back, two on the scapula and one on the occiput, the middle finger on the occiput, and you give malar flexion and shoulder traction along with the suprapubic pressure, and with this you can deliver the head of the baby.
Yes, that is modified Morris's Mellivate technique. The original technique they had one finger, middle finger they used to keep in the mouth. Okay, that is not there. It is modified technique. So, then, which forceps will use?
Piper's forceps.
Okay. If not, we can use our routine forceps also by making adequate space. Okay.
Yes.
So how is the head born?
Sorry, sir?
How is the head born? By flexion or extension?
Head is born by extension.
Is it?
No, flexion, sir.
By flexion.
Flexion.
What are the three mechanisms where head is born by flexion? Three, presentations, different situations where head is born by flexion.
One is breech, face.
Yes. Yes.
Breech, face, and
face to pubis.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Face to pubis, occipital posterior. These are the three situations where head is born by flexion. Actually, face to pubis, there is, I think, flexion followed by extension, like that. But these are the three situations where flexion comes into those.
Yes.
So if this case were to go into, if she reported to us in labor, then what you would do, you would monitor the labor using partogram, and then If everything is fine, there is no prolonged labor and the FHS has been normal, cartograph has been normal, then you'll conduct the vaginal breech delivery, and that is by what is it? What type of breech delivery is it? We have three different types, no? One is breech, assisted breech delivery. One
Assisted
more is,
breech extraction.
and one more is spontaneous breech delivery.
Spontaneous.
Okay. So usually
Yes.
such a 3 kg baby and all, it needs assistance. It won't deliver spontaneously. Okay. If it is a very tiny baby, if it's a preterm baby, then without any assistance, then they just pop out. Spontaneous delivery, spontaneous breech delivery can happen. But with such a case, definitely it is assisted breech delivery. Okay. Whatever you explain now is assisted breech delivery, where we follow those three principles. That is, no touch policy, back anterior, and never pull from below, only push from above, and don't rush, wait. Okay. And at each stage of delivery of the buttocks, you need to wait till the climbing happens, only then give episiotomy whenever needed, and then you wait till the umbilicus delivers. Delivery of the umbilicus, you wait till then, and then what you do, you wait even to see the scapula, and depending on the position of the scapula, you deliver the arms. Yes,
Yes.
we discussed whether pinards, or if it is extended arms, then you go for Lausitz or the classical one. Okay, so
Yes.
Lausitz. Then after that, depending on the next stage is a head delivery. Again, in head delivery, if we see the nape of the neck, that is a hairline is well visible, it means, I mean, it is a pretty, I mean, well flexed head, and then you can use a Burn Marshall technique. Okay, if not, then we have to go in for this modified MSV technique. The modification, as mentioned, is because previously we found a lot of jaw dislocation. So to prevent it, there is that modification where we don't keep the middle finger in the mouth. Okay, we use a modified MSV technique and we deliver the head. Okay,
Yes. Yeah.
what is this breech extraction?
In case the woman is in general anesthesia, ma'am, then we have to deliver the baby on our own without any assistance from the mother.
The breech extraction, we can, it means that we can't wait till all these things happen. That is, the climbing should happen, then the one of the butt should come, and then you give episiotomy. All this, if you wait, then there could be complications which can happen to the fetus. For example, along with the breech, there is cord prolapse. Okay,
Yes.
so that is when I go in and do breech extraction for her. Okay, as you
Yes.
mentioned, if she is anesthetized, general anesthesia, I mean, such a case we have not seen. I mean, it's very rare where she cannot push, so you go in and you do all this. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so this is about breech extraction. What else? Did we complete everything? Did we miss out anything? Can you just list out the complications of breech delivery?
The complications are for the mother as well as for the baby. In case of the mother, there can be genital tract trauma, which can lead to increased postpartum hemorrhage, as well as there can be infections in the later period. And for the baby, it can lead to injury to the brain and skull, like fractures or
One second.
hematoma.
1 second. With respect to the trauma to the maternal genital area, it is mainly because we may need very deep episiotomy for this case, and because sometimes there may be need for internal manipulations. Okay, say IPV or anything. For breech extraction, then there could be lacerations to the vagina. Yeah, so that's what he meant. Deep episiotomy where there could be hematoma formation, a lot of bleeding, PPH, and then lacerations. Yes, that maternal thing is okay. Done. Fetal complication.
There can be injuries to the fetus, that is injury to the brain and the skull, which can lead to fractures or it can lead to hematomas. Then there can be birth asphyxia due to cord compression or due to cord prolapse, and there can be premature separation of the placenta.
Okay. Now coming to this birth asphyxia, what he said. You said it is because of cord compression, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. See, imagine that the body has been delivered, only the head is inside. Now, if you just think of the cord, it is attached from the umbilicus to the placenta, which is inside, right? And
Yes.
that cord is getting compressed. Okay. So, if you delay the delivery of the head, not more than what is said is you should deliver the head well within 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. So, if you delay, then this then definitely the cord compression, and then see somebody said 60 seconds. 60 seconds is for shoulder dystocia. Okay. You define it with respect to no, the head has been delivered, the shoulders have not been delivered even after 1 minute, it is called shoulder dystocia. Okay. Now in this breech delivery, the head delivery, you can wait. One of my professor used to tell it is 60 seconds and 6 minutes. 60 seconds in the for shoulder dystocia, to term it as shoulder dystocia, and for difficult head delivery with respect to breech, I mean 6 minutes is what he used to tell. But textbook says that you need to deliver the fetal head in breech well within 2 to 3 minutes. If not, the asphyxia is very high.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, continue. Birth asphyxia.
Then there can be premature attempt of respiration in the fetus if it is prolonged labor. Then there can be prolonged labor. Then there can be various birth injuries like there can be fracture of the clavicle and Erb's palsy and due to injury to the brachial plexus. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Fracture of other bones like the humerus or the femur, dislocation of the hip joint. Yeah. And
Yes.
you can also injure the viscera like the liver. That's why when you're delivering the breech, especially say the way you hold the body of the fetus when you're delivering is it has to be feto-pelvic grip is what is said. You should hold it around the buttocks, the thumbs on the vertebra, the lower region, and you should grip the pelvic area. You should not be holding the abdomen, because if you hold the abdomen, then there is more chance that you will injure by putting a lot of pressure to the abdomen. Especially the liver can get injured.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So, birth asphyxia, then nerve palsy, especially if the brachial plexus injury, then fracture of various bones like the humerus, the femur, the clavicle, okay,
Yes.
and visceral injuries. These
Yes.
are commonly noted fetal complications.
Yes, ma'am.
And also the intraventricular hemorrhage, the tentorial tear, or the scalp and all the fracture of the scalp bones is not so very well noted. Anything else? Any other question? Did we miss out anything? Dr. Mangala and
This
Dr.
definition of lie, presentation,
Yes.
just repeat.
Presentation is the part of the fetus which is present in the lower part of the part of the fetus which is present in the lower segment of the lower segment of the pelvis is
Uterus.
called presentation.
Uterus.
Lower segment of the uterus is presentation. Lie is the relationship of the long axis of the fetus with respect to the long axis of the mother. And
Yes.
presenting part is the part of the fetus which is overlying the internal os.
Denominator.
Denominator is it is an arbitrary bony point on the presenting part with respect to which with respect to the different quadrants of the maternal pelvis.
With respect to which position is described with respect to the maternal pelvis. So what is position?
Position is the relationship of the denominator with respect to the quadrants of the pelvis.
So in breech presentation, can you tell what is lie, what is presenting part, what is denominator, and yeah.
In the breech presentation, lie will be longitudinal. The presenting part will be buttocks, and depending on the types of breech, then the denominator is the sacrum.
And with the commonest position?
Left sacro-anterior position.
Right sacro-anterior.
Okay.
Okay. So I think it's right sacro-anterior in breech. Okay. Fine. I think basic definitions they will definitely ask. Okay. All this lie presentation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, say a case of footling presentation has come. Okay, and you see you are in some PHC and she's it's almost like the legs are out. Okay, it will take a lot of time for you to refer her somewhere. So what will you do for this case? She may deliver on the way, or some complication may happen. And you are well versed with breech cases, even a footling case. There is a maneuver for it. Okay, what you'll do?
Don't know.
Okay, see now footling presentation, what usually happens is, one thing is the labor gets prolonged because as such the dilatation of cervix doesn't happen well, because the it is as such the presenting part there is not dilating the cervix completely all through. Okay, what you see in vertex presentation or cephalic presentation or in frank breech presentation, where the fetal part is snugly fitting to the cervix, this is not happening with respect to footling. Okay, so one thing what you can anticipate is prolonged labor. The labor is not progressing so fast. One more thing is, if you are not what usually may happen is you may pull the breech. Okay, you may pull the breech, then because the rest of the things are soft parts, that is a buttocks and the rest of the things other than the head, they easily come out, and what gets stuck in footling is the head. Okay, so in the say now head has got stuck, you were able to deliver the rest of the things, and head has got stuck, you can't wait for longer period because there could be asphyxia. So what you'll do, you can give something called Duerson's incision.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
that is yeah,
2 o'clock and 10 o'clock positions on the cervix, we give incisions.
incision, and then that helps in that the cervix gives way, and then the head can be delivered. After this, you should be prepared to control the bleeding. That is, traumatic PPH can happen because you have put an incision on the cervix. You should be prepared for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So good. Melvin, this is your, I really appreciate that you keep presenting. But one thing is, we have so many people in the White Army right now. We have more than, how many? It dropped down to 92, but initially I saw more than 170 or so were there. So see, you people should take, all of you should take the opportunity to present. See, none of us are belting you or scolding you or anything, right? So more and more practice you get by presenting, that will help you later on as well. See, now whatever Melvin speaks is what we are correcting, right? So so he gets much better experience than anybody else, right? So all of you take the opportunity to present, irrespective of how the presentation goes, or whether you are able to answer, not answer, doesn't matter. All of you come forward, present. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So anything else? Yeah. Dr. Mangala and Dr. Abhilash.
Ma'am, favorable factors for vaginal breech delivery. Someone was asking, ma'am, in stream.
ಏನಪ್ಪಾ question?
Favorable factors for vaginal delivery, as in breech vaginal delivery.
See, one is it has to be a spontaneous onset. Breech with spontaneous onset delivery, and the pelvis is adequate, and the baby is appropriate size. It is not more than 3.5 kgs. It is not less than, say, 1.5 is what text says. So not less than this. See, end of it is what, when you conduct breech delivery, end of it should be a baby which is surviving without any complications. So anything which is resulting in complications is not apt. Okay. So these things are favoring. Okay. Previous breech deliveries or previous vaginal deliveries are favorable again. What else? Okay, there is something called ZA scoring. Okay,
Yes.
that is Zachuni is the word I heard. I think, yeah, and Andrews scoring is what it is. So just like you have this bishop scoring, no. So just like that, 0, 1, 2 scoring is given for 6 parameters, where we have the gestational age, the baby's weight, then a previous history of vaginal delivery, then two more
Station.
things. What else?
Station
Yeah?
and community.
Station and the cervical dilatation. Station and cervical dilatation. Based on all these things, if we score it, okay, we score it, and then if it is favorable, anything more than 3 is favorable, is what is said. So that can be allowed for vaginal delivery. Okay. Any previous scar on the uterus, it is not favorable for breech. Any two trials, see, breech, any two trials are not ideal. Any complications are not ideal again, in the mother are not ideal, and not ideal cases. Okay.
Yes.
So anything to be added?
We covered almost all.
Okay. Yeah.
I think there was a doubt. This is an RH negative pregnancy as a contraindication for extensive evaluation. Is it so?
It's not a
Someone had asked.
contraindication. No, it is
Yeah, it's
not a
not a
contraindication.
contraindication. We have to be careful and give anti-D during the prior to the procedure.
Okay.
Any other doubt?
The corrected version of it.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.